So I want to share 4 common mistakes that I see leaders make when they're giving interviews. Now, sometimes people with significant information can struggle in media interviews. I know, you may think that people who naturally have a lot of information should be able to knock every media interview out of the park. But in some cases, some people have so much information that they have difficulty discerning what information to share with which reporter or on which platform. I've also seen people who are really smart, people who have a lot of information, and they may overwhelm the audience with far more information than a person wants or can process in a single setting. I've also seen this with people who are highly technical, and sometimes when I'm looking at documents that people who are highly technical, sometimes I see this with lawyers that they share with me. I emphasize the need to use plain language that the average person can understand. So here are 4 mistakes that I see leaders make when they're participating in interviews. The first one is taking too long to get to the point. With information overload, so here are 4 mistakes that I see leaders make when participating in media interviews. Sometimes people with significant information can struggle with media interviews. Now, this may be counterintuitive. You may think that people who are really smart, people who have a lot of information, that they should be able to knock every media interview out of the park. Not true. Sometimes some people have so much information that they have difficulty discerning what information to share and what information to share with various different platforms. I've seen people who are really smart overwhelm their audience with far more information than can be processed in a single setting, or far more information that the person on the other end wants. Now, I see this with people who are highly technical. I also see it with people who are lawyers. Maybe the two of those go together. Sometimes they speak in ways the ordinary person doesn't understand. I tell people all the time that there is a value to using plain language. I also sometimes hear people and they will use big words, and maybe people in their industry understand what they're saying, but the average person does not. So I want to share with you 4 mistakes that I see people making and ways that you can avoid these mistakes. All of this is in service of helping you present your best foot forward when you are in media interviews, when you are talking about your brand, or when you are communicating about an issue that's really important to you. So hi everyone, this is the PR Whisperer, and on this page we offer PR tips to help you put your best foot forward, build your platform, and also protect and strengthen your brand. So the first mistake is taking too long to get to the point. With information overload and a variety of external stimuli, many people have short attention spans. We often decide within the first few seconds whether or not we are going to continue to listen to a person. Sometimes we decide after just looking at a person, or sometimes we decide within seconds of the person opening their mouth whether we are going to listen or keep listening. I encourage people when they're doing media interviews to get to the point quickly. Mistake number 2, overuse of words or the abundance of words. Now, using a ton of words doesn't always make you sound smart or intelligent. Famed horror writer Stephen King wrote a book for writers, and it's called On Writing, a memoir of the craft. In that book, he reminded writers to never use a big word when a small word will do. He also reminded writers not to take 10 words to make a point if you can make your point using 4 words. Too many words create opportunities for confusion and disengagement. Too many words can also clutter meaning. Sometimes a short sentence packs the biggest punch. When you're writing or whether you're speaking, using too many words can clutter meaning, and it can make it difficult for the listener to grasp what you're saying and to take action based on what you say. Mistake number 3, providing too much of a backstory. When you're granting a media interview and reporters ask you a question, the audience expects an answer to the specific question the reporter has posed. The reporter wants an answer as well. The audience and the journalist, they want you to get to the point. There is no need to spend a lot of time giving an elaborate backstory when a simple, direct answer will do. Now, this is not to say that you don't have a job to do when you're doing interviews. You absolutely do. This is also not to say that your job and the reporter's job may not always align. If you feel like you need to offer context or to give a backstory, tell the reporter, and by extension their audience, listen, I'm going to answer your question, but first I want to give you a little bit of context. That cues the audience in that you will, in fact, answer the question, but also there's some information they need to hear in order to really grasp what you're saying. Once you've given that context, quickly get to the point. I want to go back to the first mistake is, acknowledging or not acknowledging that people have short attention spans. So when you start talking, our stories are always interesting to us. They're not always interesting to the end user. So providing too much of a backstory can be distracting. You can lose people. They will simply just tune out. Now, if you need help learning how to skillfully answer questions, learning which questions you should answer, and questions in which you should pivot, feel free to schedule a paid consultation with Spotlight PR, and we will definitely walk you through this because what I'm explaining is critically important, and oftentimes it doesn't happen without practice and without media coaching. So feel free to schedule a consultation, and we'll do what we can to help you. The fourth mistake that I see people make is coming across as insincere. When people listen to you, they are evaluating whether they trust what you're saying. Before you participate in an interview, consider arranging mock interviews, especially for tricky or difficult topics. You can also record yourself responding to answers. So maybe you take out your phone and you pretend that you're doing an interview and you just record yourself talking. Once you're done recording, look at that video. What are your facial expressions? What is your body language? Does your message make sense? Is there anything about your presentation that comes across as insincere? You want to be aware of that. You can also, again, do a mock interview with colleagues, and you want to ask your team to be honest with you. Now, I should say that in order for people to be honest with you, you have to have first created the environment and the culture where truth-telling is rewarded, valued, and welcomed. If you work in an environment, but the culture is such that people get in trouble or they perceive that there will be retribution for telling the truth, they're not going to tell you what you need to hear. And the problem is the public will. So if you do these mock interviews, the feedback that you receive can help you tweak your presentation style and support your message delivery and also your ability to connect with your audience. Now, these are 4 tips. For a deeper dive, feel free to reach out and schedule a consultation. We do media trainings quite a bit, and the goal in doing media training is not to have you come across as a robot, but to boost your confidence so that when you do interviews, you're putting your best foot forward, you feel good, you look good, and most importantly, you sound good. Thank you so much for listening, and if you haven't already, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share.